This might come as a shock with people familiar with the channel, but believe it or not, my hatred for hard-working, low-paying, soul-crushing jobs didn't start at retail. That certainly made things a lot worse, to be fair. I mean, it's hard not to have a hatred growing on you like a sickly mole because you have to answer the same dumb questions 12 times a day.
Excuse me, do you work here?
No, haven't you heard? Dressing like a financially struggling retail worker with high-functioning depression is totally in right now. Get with the fashion, normie. No, my bad experiences with the working life actually go back a little further than that. And it wasn't retail. But in a way, it did prepare me to deal with the general public. Because my first job was on a farm. And let's just say I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 would work there again review. But before I tell you about that, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring creative classes and hundreds of career-focused classes to boot. And what better time than the start of the year to get all your personal growth done and out of the way so you can take the rest of the year off and kick your feet up. So if you've ever fancied dipping your toe into something strange, start your own business or monetize a talent you have, then not to worry because Skillshare is packed to the brim with helpful video classes for you. From tips and tricks from the professionals themselves to roadmaps and detailed guides ranging from beginner to expert to guide you on your way to your goals, be they big or small. A class I've recently enjoyed on there is called Productivity for Creators by Ali Abdal because, well, let's face it, I need all the help I can get. Do some work. Oh, okay, fine. Just let me finish this 6-hour retrospective on the Mass Effect series. Come on now. You know you'll only get sucked in and you'll never get any work done. Wait, who's that? He's a DLC character, I think. Oh, interesting. Never actually played any of the DLCs. Yeah, me neither. Well, we should probably play the DLCs before finishing this video so it's not spoiled for us. Yeah, good point. I'll start downloading it now. Were you saying something there a second ago? Who remembers? It's a great class that covers many aspects of being productive, from finding free time to struggling with motivation and everything in between. So if you've ever considered starting a side hustle in hopes that it'll one day blossom into a career, then you'll definitely get some value out of it. So if that's filling you with an appealing feeling, then I'm dealing you an offer that's a steal. Because the first 1,000 of my viewers to join with my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can achieve your new career goals this year. So I was about 15 at the time and I was on summer break from school, but I wasn't about to be sitting around for 3 months playing with this brand new thing called an erection I had found. Because my mother was pestering me to get a summer job. You see, being a single mother of 4 of us, our ever-increasing financial demands were becoming devastating for her cigarette budget. So it didn't take her long to find me said job through a family friend. It was a Monday to Friday, 10 to 6-ish kind of deal, working on a farm. Not really a problem in my eyes. I could do with the extra money and I had actually worked on my uncle's dairy farm before. Well, not worked. My older brother worked on it and he'd occasionally bring me along to keep him company while he thumbed to get there and back. And he'd work while I'd just spend the day at the sheds feeding calves handfuls of hay and giving them head pats. My uncle had geese too, and I can tell you, those guys are arseholes. They'd get pissed off that you're near them, even though they walked up to you. And before you know it, you're screaming at the top of your lungs, being chased across the yard by this angry little pillow, much to the amusement of my older brother. Why didn't you help me when I was calling? Because there's only small. What's it going to do? Exactly. Why is he so confident? What does he know? So I took the job, and the following morning I hopped on my bike and made my way out to the farm. It was about a 40-minute cycle, but again, I was 15. I ran off a nuclear fuel cell back then. You could have told me to cycle to the moon, and I would have been back in time for lunch with barely a sweat on. When I arrived at the farm, I met the owner, Martin. A tall, jaded, angry-looking man with a face like a sea-facing cliff, wrinkles so deep in his face I reckon that's where he kept his phone, and nostril hair looking closer to the bristles you'd find in a humpback's mouth, looking like Bob Ross himself was about to tunnel out of his sinuses. I reckon this lad had babysat Jesus at some stage. Like he had to be at least 6,000 years old. But then again, he was a farmer who's endured the misery of an Irish climate, so it's just as likely he was only about 27. But anyway, we get to work and we immediately start off on the wrong foot because the first thing he wants me to do is give him a hand herding cows. That alone isn't an issue as I've done this before, but this is soon about to change because he goes up ahead and I'm herding from behind. But one of the cows has chosen to ignore me and isn't moving. So I get a bit annoyed until I realise why it's not moving. It's not a cow, it's a bull. And a big fucker too. Now, when I was on my uncle's farm, he had this big Red Bull. Like this one, only with a bigger box and a record. I was warned to never go near him because he was a proper aggressive bastard and had charged farm hands before. So I'd learned to fear bulls at a very young age. Not that I needed help to learn that, given these things are essentially nature's equivalent to a battle tank. So I'm looking at this bull and shitting myself. I don't want to go near him. Unfortunately, Martin doesn't have much in the way of compassion or patience, so what rapport we had built up at this stage very soon broke down. What's taking so long? Come on. There's a bull. He won't touch you. Come on. But he's looking at me. Hunt him on, tough fuck. Hey there, big man. The sun's getting real low. No. Not happening. So now that I wasn't allowed help with the cattle anymore, I was given a simpler job, like cutting the grass in front of his house. Straightforward enough, right? You see, you'd be forgiven for thinking that, but you must remember one thing. This is a farm. And the thing about farmers is every single bit of machinery they have has actually died about 30 years ago and has unwillingly been kept barely alive with twine, duct tape and Sunday prayers. I'm telling you, when AI takes over, I promise you, farmers will be at the top of their hit list for their crimes against machinery. And his lawnmower was no different. You couldn't turn it off the conventional way. There was a knack to it that he showed me. Soon as you're done, pull out that cable there and it'll turn off. Grand, I thought. Straightforward enough. Until a while later when I went to turn it off, pulled out the cable and got an electric shock off it. I thought I'd done it wrong, but I was too afraid to say anything to him because he'd already chewed me out of it over the bull. So I spent the rest of the day pulling that cable out in a variety of flurries and styles, but still getting shocked each and every time right up until the moment I finished. It was years later when I was servicing my car, I realised what the cable actually was I was pulling out. It was a lead for the f***ing spark plug. Of course I was going to get shocked if I pulled that out while the engine was running. I swear he just tanked the first shock himself when he did it, so I'd think that I was doing it wrong and spend the rest of the day zapping myself until I couldn't hear over the electrically induced tinnitus. So I spent the next few weeks doing a variety of jobs about the place, one of which was cutting down nettles that had grown up a little bit too high. He said he can't have them touching the electric fence in the fields. But honestly, I think in hindsight he was probably just trying to electrocute me again. But I didn't mind this. Walking around fields for a day cutting down nettles with his trimmers is easy enough. Until I seen the trimmers. Yeah, Martin, you said I have to cut down nettles, not show people the error of their ways. Now stop messing and show me where the trimmers is. That is the fucking trimmers. Now shut up and get to it. So yeah, I had to give several fields a short back in size with the pinnacle of 1800s technology. I actually didn't hate this though, if I'm being honest. I mean, not only do I have a wild imagination, but I hate stinging nettles. And now I have a fucking scythe. So I wasn't cutting down nettles anymore. I was a hero, facing down an army of stinging green bastards who have ruined many a day in my life up until then. Only now, I'm armed. So I happily swung that thing all day long in the name of every football lost in them, every slight brush off them as you climb through a ditch, and every hand ever put down on the tiny little ones that blend in with the grass when you go to sit down. Oh, you should have seen it, lads. I slaughtered thousands of them. I came back from that job looking like a Vietnam vet. But the last job I did for him at the time was by far the worst. I had to paint about 1 kilometre of fences, front and back, under the blazing heat of the sun midsummer with engine oil. I know, I found it strange too, but apparently it's a fantastic way to preserve wood when you're as tight as an un's tampon. Now, I don't need to tell you smart people all how well human skin handles the sun when coated in a nice layer of oil, but I can tell you that was the week I found out about the joys of a sunburn so bad it blisters. But it wasn't just the pain and the heat, it was also so boring. I couldn't find a way to make a game out of it like I did the nettles. Add to that the fact I was covered in oil every day and I absolutely stank. Even to this day, the smell of engine oil takes me right back to the misery I had to endure for those 3 days it took me to finish it. But you want to know the real kicker of it all in the end? It was a Friday evening and I go to let him know that I'm done for the day. He thanks me for lending him a hand around the farm for the last 2 weeks, but he has nothing else left for me to do, so this was my last day. Great, I thought. I wanted to get back to enjoying my summer anyway. So he hands me an envelope and says, "There's your pay." But I don't open it because in my young mind I assumed this would be rude. But I was expecting big things as I had put in 10 solid days of work. So I thanked him, hopped on my bike and headed home. So my mother's sitting at home minding her own business and suddenly I come bursting through the door, fire an envelope into the kitchen, shout an incoherent sentence made primarily of a colourful variety of words YouTube doesn't like, and storm upstairs. My mother picks up the envelope, reaches inside and pulls out my wages for the last 2 weeks' work. All 25 fucking euro of it. Not only was his tools 100 years out of date, so was his idea of wages. He had absolutely stiffed me. He had me on 35 cents an hour. Just to put it into perspective for my international audience, that's nearly less than what food service staff get paid in America. And I got no retribution for it because everybody in my family found this absolutely hilarious. Even my older brother who worked on a farm at the time was like, "Ah yeah, well, that's just farmers for you." I learned 2 valuable lessons that week. 1. Never lift a finger at your job until your wage is already set. And 2. Try as you might, you can't burn down a farm with a Molotov cocktail made from used engine oil.